Welcome to episode 22 of the 1/160th of a second photography podcast. So please don't forget to head over to the Patreon page at patreon.com/160spp, where you can find more details about all our back catalogues and you can support me if you want to. In addition to doing this podcast, I also create content for YouTube and I watch YouTube as a viewer. Now, some of the videos I watch are about making videos, about making podcasts, general movie things about Star Wars. I love watching YouTube videos about Star Wars, but most of the videos I watch are about photography. So whose videos do I regularly watch, and why do I watch their videos more than other people's videos? Well, I hope to answer that in today's podcast, and you might be surprised by the reasons I like certain YouTube creators. So this episode is all about who I watch on YouTube. I've subscribed to over 90 channels. I'm not going to cover all of those channels and creators, but I am going to list my top 10 favourite content creators who create content for photography on YouTube. But most importantly, I'm going to explain why they've ended up in my top 10. So let's talk about the top 10. Each of the top 10 brings something a little different and enlightens me in a different way. I pick up different things and different nuances from each photography channel. So let's start at number 10, Gordon Lang. Gordon's channel focuses on reviews and product tests. He gives a really good technical overview of the product's features and capabilities. Many of the questions I would ask about a product, he already answers in his videos. His videos are super in-depth and allow you to do a lot of research on a particular camera. For the Panasonic G9 review, he did so much he had to split his video into 3 parts. And adding up the 3 parts, it comes to over 51 minutes. So if I were thinking of buying your G9, I'd definitely be watching each of those 3 videos to get a really thorough overview. And Gordon does this really well. You get a really thorough and technical overview of a camera. Thank you, Gordon. In at number 9 is Photorec TV. Toby's channel has this amazing mix of travel, tips, tutorials and gear reviews. And his videos are clear and really easily understood by just about anyone. He seems a really patient teacher type, probably the teacher we all wish we had at school. So his channel is just a really nice mix of things. He seems really passionate about passing on simple, easy to digest photography, ideas, tips and tutorials. So well done, Toby. In at number 8 is The Art of Photography, and I especially like Ted's channel for showing me the work of specific photographers and artists. There's a little bit of kit review, but mostly the channel is sort of editorial observations, assignments, features on specific works of specific photographers. And it's nice to see some good images and not always see product reviews. Ted's channel feels very highbrow in photography, and I do like that. In at number 7 is Adorama TV. This might be in people's top 3, top 1, and they have a huge amount of videos, Adorama. And what I like about Adorama is they have so many different presenters who do specific things. Out of all the photography YouTube channels, Adorama's output feels the closest to a TV program to me. So it does have a very TV series feel. So if you watch Top Photographer, that feels like a photography competition show that you would see on TV. And Top Photographer was really good. I really enjoyed watching that. Each presenter has their niche, and their series covers their niche really well. So we've got people like Gavin Hoey, Daniel Norton, Joe McNally, and Mark Wallace. And their programs and series really resonate with my type of shooting and photography. But you have other presenters who talk about different aspects on there too. So Brian Peterson, Martin, Ruth, lots of others. And they've got a really good through the lens set of videos, which features different photographers, which sort of is it's like a BTS and following around. That's quite good. And finally, I suppose I really like their mix of tutorials and showcasing what can be achieved. You would expect from what I've said for it to be a little bit higher on my list, but I suppose it's missing something, and I can't put my finger on what it's missing. They maybe seem a bit clinical, Adorama's output. Some of the other ones I think are quite funny or have their own sort of personalities, and maybe I feel that's not there with Adorama. But it's certainly a good channel, and it has a host of content. I think they were maybe one of the first to start producing YouTube photography videos on a big scale. In at number 6 is the Slanted Lens. And the Slanted Lens does really good videos covering big production shoots from start to finish. That's what they're really good for. Their product reviews are good, and they do some tutorials too. JP Morgan gives an insight into the workings of a professional photographer. And the way they use strobes is really good and fits my style of shooting as well. So do like the slanted lens. Now we're in the top 5. In at position number 5 is Kai, and I probably don't need to say any more than that. I'm sure if you're listening to my podcast, you might know who Kai is. What I like most about Kai's videos, and that would be his Digital Rev and his own work, is the locations he films them in. Hong Kong, where Digital Rev was filmed, looks like a fabulous place to do street photography. It's so vibrant, it's so busy, and the people do not care about being snapped in those videos or appearing in those videos. Now, I'm really unlikely to go to Hong Kong, but I do enjoy watching photography within that environment. That takes me to a place that I'm very unlikely to go, and that's why I'm so keen to watch those videos. Now, Kai left Digital Rev and he moved to doing his own solo thing. And this is a complete juxtaposition from Hong Kong. He now films his videos in the UK, where I live. So before I was watching his videos because I like seeing a place I couldn't ever go. Now I like to see his videos because they're in a place I can go. Looks like he goes to London and Cambridge quite a lot, which are places that I can go to and do the same thing. So I do like watching his street photography in a similar location to me. I'm not a massive fan of Kai's humour, but I do appreciate that many people do find him hilarious. So, number 4, a photographer and content creator called David Thorpe. Now, David Thorpe is a former UK press photographer and he has a wealth of press photography experience. And he now uses exclusively Micro Four Thirds systems for their lightness and their compactness. And I think his reviews of Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses are excellent and really detailed. Particularly his review of lenses. I really like the real world examples of using Micro Four Thirds lenses and cameras that David brings. And I just like his reviews. They're very basic, they're very simple, they're not uncluttered, they're not fancy, but that works really well. After watching 9 minutes of review, you know whether that lens or that camera would suit what you want to do. It really is a workhorse of Micro Four Thirds photography. Thank you, David. In at number 3 is Matthias Berling, and Matthias's channel is really focused on street photography and reviews of cameras for street photography. Like me, he subscribes to the philosophy that you don't always need the best camera for the job, and an older used camera is more than adequate. You just need something that takes pictures. And I really like the way he puts his videos together. I really like his images on his channel and his street photography, and I just like the way he talks through things really simply. So number 3 is not a big channel compared to some of the ones I'm going to mention, but it's one that I certainly like and I would encourage you, if you like street photography, to look into. Before we look into the top 2, really I want to say that I find their camera and lens reviews really, really good, really detailed. And also, I talked earlier about something missing from Adorama. There seems a good sort of warm friendliness, familiarity, little bit of humour, and I think that's what's put them in the top 2 or helped to get them to the top 2. All around, I just have nothing really that I can fault with these 2 channels. So in at number 2 is DP Review, which was formerly The Camera Store, or referred to as TCS TV. Jordan and Chris make beautiful looking videos, really, really good videos, and they look wonderful, and they give a really detailed yet fun review of camera gear. I really like the fact that they consider how well the product suits video too at the end. So you get Jordan at the end talking about how well this item or product would work for video. That's not, a camera bag, they wouldn't talk about that, and a strap, they wouldn't talk about that, but certainly for cameras, they do. And I think that's really useful because I also do create video content, so that's really good for me. And you may have noticed the vast majority of my top 10 so far is US based, and probably the vast majority of YouTube channels about photography are US based. So it's incredibly nice to have something that's Canadian based, and it's nice to see things on that side of Canada where they live. So it's nice to see people going out into the wilderness or going out to the mountains. So you get really good reviews in a really inaccessible place for someone like me, in a really beautiful place as well, testing out cameras and kit really well. So DP Review is my number 2. So my number 1, you may well have guessed this, it's Tony and Chelsea. Tony and Chelsea I see as the king and queens of photography YouTube channels. Their reviews are great, and Tony's really good at conveying technical information in a really simple way and breaking it down, and he does do a really good job of digging into technical detail and then simplifying it for viewers. And I can certainly follow it, and that's an achievement, really. He debunks myths about photography, which is really good, and he gives good advice on his tutorial videos. Their podcast is also great, and it's really informative. And I really like their episode on copyright infringement. So going really deep into the detail, Tony outlined what copyright infringement of his image actually cost the offending company. And he went through all the steps from when he spotted an image was being used without his permission to what happened sort of yesterday. Now, you might think that was quite boring, but I found that quite interesting, particularly the way he did it and how he outlined the cost to him, what he got in the end, and the cost to the company who did the infringing. He made it very clear at the end and through numbers and data that probably it was the lawyers who benefited the most out of that, which was really interesting. The episodes are well shot with high production values, and their episodes are compelling views. And they do a lot of focus on video and drones and other things. And drones is an area that maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to get into. So Tony and Chelsea are definitely the king and queen for me of photography YouTube, and they're number one. So what do you think? Do you disagree? Is my top 10 a bit biased? Is my top 10 completely out of whack? Please do let me know. There are some honourable mentions channels that I do really like, but obviously didn't get into the top 10. That doesn't mean they're not as good, or that doesn't mean, they're there to be shunned. I really like Tog on the Street, who is a UK, I think he's in East Anglia, around Norwich area, UK street photographer who just goes out and does some street photography. So you get to see where he stands, and you get to see his images. And I think he uses Fujis mainly. I really like his stuff. Art of the Image, I really like for these sort of technical questions of what camera should I buy? I've got this much money. And the guy who does that talks through, while wearing a baseball cap, what he thinks and what he would pick. And that it's fairly procedural, but I like it, and I'll still watch his videos. And I think it's good to have that discussion, and good where people can go and get that expert advice. I like F-Stoppers. I think their stuff's really good. And I like the way they've got paid stuff, but you can still sort of access it they give like quite a long sort of preview of it. You don't feel like it's an infomercial for buying something bigger. I do like F-Stopper stuff. And honourable mention to Christopher Frost, who is a Cardiff-based lens reviewer. He just reviews lenses, really. But still, he does a good technical dig into it. It's fairly procedural. It's going to be the same every episode, but that's good. It helps you compare lenses. He mainly does Canon. I think he's now doing a bit of Sony and, some Sony. So let me know what you thought, and don't forget to head over to Patreon page at patreon.com/160SPP. And thanks for listening.